Welcome everyone to our Monday night shiur, the holy Monday night shiur. It's really Tuesday night, to tell you the truth, because the Jewish day goes by the night. Tuesday it says Pa'amayim Kitov. If you look in the parasha, twice it says it was good on Tuesday. Twice. Why? If you look at Monday, when God created Monday, there was no good over there. Look, it's the only day. It doesn't say it was good. That's why people who are born on a Monday, they have to work on goodness. If they're born on Monday. And anything that deals with blood, they like. Destruction, they like. Anything on a Monday is to deal with destruction. Why? On Monday, God separated everything. It was the first time there was two. Before, there was always one. Now, the Yetzer Hara has a pitchon peh. I'm separate than God. That was on a Monday. Then on a Tuesday, what did Hashem do? No, Pa'amayim Kitov. Also the bad, the destruction is also what? For the good. It's really Pa'amayim Kitov. So two goods. On Wednesday, what did Hashem make? First machloket. Whoever's born on a Wednesday has to be very careful from machloket in his life. A lot of, different of opinions. Why? On Wednesday was the first Shalom bite issue. Between the sun and the moon. That's how you want to start something, don't do it on a Wednesday. Everything over there was tararam on the Wednesday. But there we learned the secret of Shalom bite. Man has to learn how to be quiet, like this, like the sun. He was quiet, and then he was rewarded. With the moon, she became small. Then Thursday came, the fish. Whoever's born on Thursday, Gemara says, he has sigula shel kesef ve'parnasa. He has a sigula shel ashirut. Friday, Adam Harishon. Whoever's born on a Friday, sigula to be a tzaddik. His neshama is sigula to be tzaddik. Whoever's born on Shabbat,
Friday night. I was born Friday night.
You were born on Shabbat, Habibi. You were born on Shabbat. If you're born on Shabbat, you have to be a chassid. You have to be a chassid. Not with the kukulin, the shtreimelech, and this. Chassid means ba'avodat Hashem. You have to be a chassid b'yireh shamayim. Whoever's born on a Sunday is going to be a leader. But the Gemara says either he's going to be a leader of men, or either he's going to be a leader of the banzitim. He chooses in his life. Who is he going to be the leader of? Sunday. Whoever's born on Motzei Shabbat is going to be a tzaddik. Why? Shabbat came out, and then he decided to come out. He kept Shabbat. They didn't want to keep Shabbat. That was their issue. But he kept Shabbat. He waited till the last second. Some wait even until Rabbeinu Tam. If you wait till Rabbeinu Tam, he's going to be special. It's super special. And he's going to come out. So our shiur is on Tuesday. Not really Monday night. It's really Tuesday. Pa'amayim Kitov. So anything that happens tonight, bracha v'atzlacha. Our shiur is sponsored. L'refuat shlema Bella Barno Bat Zilpa. Hashem should give her a long, healthy, happy life. And when you daven for health, daven like David HaMelech. What did David HaMelech say? They made a song out of it. Al tashlicheni le'ed zikna kichlot kochi al ta'azveni. When I get old, I want to get old, but on one condition. I'm not going to need anyone in my life. I don't want anyone's help. I'll be able to walk on my two legs, see with my two eyes, have my teeth. Be independent. Like this you have to daven. When you say to Hashem, Al tashlicheni le'ed zikna. I shouldn't need anybody in my old age. Rav Chaim Sinwani, the head of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, his yortzeit was 3 days ago. Rav Chaim Sinwani, he used to always daven like this. Al tashlicheni ke'ed zikna. And like this, be'emet was, till the last day of his life, he didn't need anyone's help. You know what it is to be in your old age and always dependent on somebody? In your person's, we take things for granted. We always think we're going to walk with our legs, have our heart beating the same way. How many people have pacemakers? Lo aleinu? I know people in their 30s and 40s, they have pacemakers. Yeah. 30s and 40s, bad lifestyle, unhealthy lifestyle. And they already have pacemakers. And still they don't care. They still take it for granted. So how much we have to... So you have some kids who are even... So that's why every time when you daven, don't think just parnasa, and give me some more parnasa. Say refuah, chaim arukim, banim tzadikim. The Gemara says Masechet Shabbat, worse. It's worse in a person's house, tarbut ra'ah, chashon, when his kid goes off the derech, than gogu magog. A person rather live through gogu magog than see his kids go off the derech. That's how bad it is. So therefore, there's a lot of things to daven for. So if a person sees in his life his parnasah is a bit 50-50, but everything else in his life is Baruch Hashem. Every day in his life he's winning a lottery. Every single day. Baruch Hashem. And how many women they give birth and they don't survive? How many children are born with diseases these days? How many kids, chas v'shalom, 2 weeks ago another kid was run over in Borough Park. 5 years old, 6 years old. 2 weeks ago. How many kids, how many of those, I don't want to say the word. But Baruch Hashem, Rabotai, every day we're winning the lottery. Somebody sent me today a picture slide, how a human being is a small world. If you look at the galaxy, and if you see the person's eyes, it looks like, if you zoom out, it looks like the Milky Way. And if you see the birth of a star, it's like a cell dividing into two. Same exact picture. Everything in your body, it's a micro of the real macro of the world. That's why the Gemara already says, Adam olam katan. You're a small world. And everything is working inside of you. By the way, what I'm telling you right now, this is what the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, of Shalom Dov Ber, yesterday was his yortzeit. He said, the only way to love God, the only way to love Him, is to think about Him. You cannot be born one day, I love God. You could be born with fear of God. That's the difference. You could be born with a fear of God. I'll give you an example. You see some people, no matter what you're going to do to them, they're not going to do an avera with a goya. They won't go to a club in their life. His friends will tell him, come, let's go. He just won't do it. He cannot. In his nature, he cannot do this avera. You understand? But you cannot teach him how to love God. You're not going to teach him how to serve Hashem with fire. You see some people in their life, Chilul Shabbat, oh my God, they're willing to throw the rock to the cars. Chilul Shabbos! But to see how he davens, it's missing, missing the ish. It's missing it. Why? Because you can't teach love. You cannot be born with love. You got it. Baruch Hashem. You cannot be born with love. You could only be born with fear. Yirat Hashem. Why? Abraham. Reshit Chochma, Yirat Hashem. Fear of God. Sechel Tov, if you need a good sechel. Lechol osehem, tilato, omedet la'ad. You want ahava, you need sechel. How do you learn to love God? I'll give you an example, guys. A person wants to love Hashem. It's a mitzvah from the Torah, am I right or wrong? Right. Rabbi said, what's the pasuk? I like it. I can tell you daven 3 times a day. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך בשני יצריך ביצרה יצרתו בכל מאודיך אפילו נוטל את נפשך, as Rabbi Akiva used to say. So it's a very funny thing. The Gemara in Brachot says that Rabbi Akiva used to say all of his life, when am I going to get to the situation where I could fulfill this pasuk of loving God? Why? The Gemara darshins to love God even if He's taking away your soul. That means you have the ability to get to a situation in your life that even if you're on the verge of Kiddush Hashem, you're going to love Him for it. So when Rabbi Akiva's face was being combed off, when literally his skin was being combed off his face, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's very funny that the mythological student, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was with him in his last second, and it was Yom Kippur. And he tells him, Rebbe, how are you saying Shema with such ahava? It was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He says, how are you doing it? So Rabbi Akiva tells Rabbi Shimon, are you kidding me? I've been waiting my whole life for this. I've been waiting, when can I get to that situation where I could finally be mekayim the pasuk? That you could only do through love. But fear of Hashem, you could be born with that. That's why it says sur mera, stay away from that, ve'aseh tov, and do good. First comes the sur mera. Then comes, you cannot say, oh, just love them. Everything just love. You're lying to yourself. You don't love anyone. You love your ta'avot. You love your ta'avot. You want love, you have to work on the love. How are you going to work on love? Very simple. It's a simple 1, 2, 3. It's business people know this. You have a business guy, and he has a business, a startup business, and the business is doing well. You know how businesses are? Goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, and then suddenly he gets to a point where he has to go bankrupt. He can't pay the debt anymore. But he's been in this business for 10, 15 years. He put his neshama into that business. It's his baby. It's his baby. But what can you do? It's the logical thing to do is to what? Go what? Bankrupt. You want to go to jail? You don't want to go to jail. He's not going to want to sell the business. Why? But shouldn't he fear jail? Shouldn't he fear the creditors? He loves his business. Why does he love it? Because he invested in it. Why does the Gemara say, buy your wife, every holiday, buy her a gift? The more you invest in her, that you don't need Shalom Bayit classes. I'm telling you that this is the only rule you have to know. This is the common denominator. This is it. You want to love something? Invest in it. That's it. Buy her flowers every week. Then when you're going to fight, you're going to be like, this is the woman I gave flowers last Friday. I'm going to fight with her? You understand what I'm saying? That's why the Gemara says, Rabbi Chia said, Ashrehem, blessed they are. They raise our children and save us from the Avera. For Rabbi Chia, it was enough that he thought of that and he didn't want to fight with his wife. And his wife, Rabbi Chia's wife, Rabbi Chia was the student of Rav. And he was the Rebbe of Rav and the student of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. If it wasn't for him, Torah would have been forgotten from Am Yisrael. Forgotten. What he used to do, he was very poor. He was a ole. He was born in Israel. He was born in Iraq. He used to take a deer, slaughter it, take the meat, give it to the poor, take the skin, write Mishnayot on it, Chumash on it, go from state to state. In Israel, from city to city, teach one group of kids Berachot. Another kid used to teach Masechet Sukkah. Another kid used to teach Masechet Eruvin. Then his guys now teach each other. On to the next city. He goes the same thing over there. And he still had time to be the greatest student of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. So his wife, I forget her name, I think it was Pazit, I think. So, she's on Ashkenazi, you're saying? So she was not the nicest cookie in the jar. The Gemara tells us why. She had twins, 2 sets of twins. The Gemara says it's possible for one set of twins, for the one of the twins, to be born 2 months after the first twin is born. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She gave birth to one of them, and the second one needs to come out. But it's not coming out, so she's in labor for 2 months.
They didn't get it yet.
Today, a woman, they come to I've been there 4 times. They go to the thing, the hospital. First thing, nothing started yet. Epidural. Express. They don't even want to say anymore. Why? This is the new Generation Z. Generation Z. Everything, they want easy. Generation Z wants it easy. But back then, now she went through labor for 2 months. This is not a regular labor. She was so upset when she gave birth. And her 2 sons, one was Yehuda, one was Yecheskel. One was Yehuda, one was Yecheskel. They were such tzaddikim. When they came to bury Rav Huna in their grave, Rav Huna was the Reish Galuta. His name was Rav Chagai. Everyone was afraid to go inside their cave. They know you're going inside this cave, there is a possibility you're not coming out alive. Because back then they used to bury people in crypts. Not inside the ground, but like inside a hole inside a cave. I went to the grave of Yoel HaNavi in Gush Halav in Eretz Yisrael. Over there, he's buried. It's not really in the ground. It's like in a hole, in a cave. So when they would go in there, if he was such a tzaddik, it's like Kodesh HaKodashim. Like a Kohen would go inside the Kodesh HaKodashim. Sometimes he wouldn't come out. So too big tzaddikim, when they would go inside their cave, if you not have the zchut, you're not coming out alive. So Rav Chagai, when they brought Rav Huna's casket to the cave, he said, "What cave could we put Rav Huna in?" He was a big tzaddik. So they said, "Well, put him with Rav Chia." Why? Rav Huna was from Iraq. Rav Chia was from Iraq. This one was related to David HaMelech. This one is related to David HaMelech. They're similar. This one taught Torah to Am Yisrael. This one taught Torah to Am Yisrael. So what does he do? I said, everyone's afraid. They don't want to go in there. Rav Chagai said, I'm going to go in. Rav Chagai. He goes inside with a casket, the body, and then he hears Yehuda and Chizkiah talking. He hears the Nishamot talking. Yehuda tells to Chizkiah, get up. Make room for Rav Huna. So Chizkiah says to him, okay, I'm going to get up. As he gets up, a pillar of fire appears inside the cave. Rav Chagai gets so afraid, he takes Rav Huna's body as a shield, and he drops him and he just runs out. He was so afraid. This was the sons of Rabbi Chia. Now imagine who was Rabbi Chia. Imagine. He's the only one in Shamayim that when they bring the chairs up to the Yeshiva Shel Mala, he doesn't need escorts. You see, by the Goyim's world, the bigger your entourage, the greater you are. And the Jewish world is just the opposite. The greater you are, you're alone. You don't need anybody with you. That's why with God, it says, when does he show himself? Lo berash, not with noise. Kol demamataka. In a whisper, God shows himself. God shows himself when everything is quiet. Boom! Then he shows up. Now when there's rash and this is not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So to Rabbi Chia, his bed, his chair in Shamayim goes up by itself. One student wanted to see him. He fasted. I don't remember how many times, like 100 fasts he fasted just to see him. Back then, some tzaddikim used to fast to see other tzaddikim inside their dreams. So Rish Lakish, for example, fasted a lot to see Rabbi Chia. You know who Rish Lakish was? In the Gemara, they say if you would have seen Rish Lakish inside the yeshiva learning Torah, it's like you see a man take 2 mountains and crush them with his bare hands and make them into and grind them into powder. This was Rish Lakish. So he says, I fasted so much to see him in a dream. They didn't let me see him.
Wasn't worthy enough.
So Rish Lakish says, what? He taught Torah to Israel. I also taught Torah to Israel. No, but he suffered more than you in his life. He had to go through. Also, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his son was who? Who's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's son? Rabbi Elazar. Because there's a difference between Eliezer and Elazar. Rabbi Elazar had a son called Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef, not Yossi. Ashkenazim say Yossi. We say Yosef. His grandson. He had a grandson. His father-in-law was Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. So he had a son named, but Rabbi Yosef. The Gemara says every woman that would sell her a night, you guys know what I'm talking about, for 2 zuz, they would rent him out for 4 zuz. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grandson. Did you guys hear what I don't know. You guys have. I'm getting goosebumps telling you this over. I don't see the goosebumps over here. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grandson. Every that used to sell herself for 2 zuz, they would pay him 4. It was a handsome dude, yeah.
Okay, laws of.
He knew how to play the guitar. You know, when you come to my shiurim, the topic is different than the actual thing. Sometimes Gabriel calls me and says, change what's the topic again? But anyways, once I start, I can't stop. So what happens? Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's son, the father of Rabbi Yosef, he had Abraham a classmate. A classmate. How do you say classmate in Russian? Adna classmate. Who was he? Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. two classmates. One is Rabbi Elazar, one is Rabbi Yehuda Hanazi. Chavrutas. Back then in yeshiva, it was very competitive. The smarter you were, the more diligent you were, the closer you sat to the Rebbe. The more lazier you were, they used to keep you in the back. Today, it's liberal world. We have to keep all the kids in the front. The dumber you are, the more in the front you are. Not that any kid is dumb, chas v'shalom, but you guys get that point. It's a different world. It's a different... Tzadikim yavobo. Anywho, so one time, they put Rabbi Elazar sitting right in front of the Rebbe. Who was the Rebbe back then? Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. He was the top Rebbe. So they said, how are we going to put Rabbi Elazar, one classmate, and not put his Chavruda? So they put Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's Abba was the Rashbag. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The Rashbag said to his peers, he said, I have one son. You want him to pass away? He was afraid of Ayin Hara. So they put Rabbi Yehuda Nasi in the back. And then they said, we put one in the back. We're going to put the other one too. Rabbi Elazar felt bad. He wasn't afraid of Ayin Hara. He had the power of the Zohar HaKadosh. That thing burns all the Ayin Haras. You don't need no Ayin Hara when you have that. Understand? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So he got upset. So he got upset. Now every time Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, they were kids. Every time he would say a pshat in the Mishnah, this is before Mishnayot was even written. Before he even thought about making Mishnayot. He was kids in the yeshiva. Every time he would say, Rabbi Elazar would bring questions, he would rip him apart. Bright out, this, that, knock him out. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi got very upset. He went to his Abba. Who's his Abba? The Rashbag. He was the Nasi. He told his father, I have a bully in class. Take care of him. Back then, the head of the state, the head of the Nisi'im, had police officers with them. Always. If somebody messed with them, National Guard, knock them out. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, I can't do anything to him. Why? He says, you're a lion, but you're the son of a fox. He's a lion, he's the son of a lion. Two lions. We can't mess with you. You gotta know your place. We're the Nasi, yeah. The Gemara says Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel was also a lion, but he was humble. He called himself a fox in front of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is really a lion. How do we know? Who came after Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Who was the lion? Ha'ari HaKadosh. And what's the Ari? The lion. When the lion roars, even if there's 1,000 sheep, they all run away, right? Imagine 1,000 sheep going to war against one lion. It's a feast. It's not a war. You understand? That's how we say when there's 100 poskim. When there's 100 poskim. 100 poskim. 100 Balei Halakha. There's one Ari HaKadosh. When the lion roars, all the poskim, they scatter away. Ari says something, the Ari says something. You can't mess with the Ari HaKadosh. Understand? Anywho, Rabbi Elazar passed away and his son went off of the derech. Rabbi Yosei went off the derech. He had a little too much fun. So look at this, his father's old classmate, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, heard that his classmate's son went off the derech. He's going to do kiruv. Lamanachai status. He goes to do kiruv. He went and he found Rabbi Yosei. He took off his coat. Back then, rabbis used to wear golden jomez. It's not like today, the rabbis are they're beaten. Kinat sofrim tisrach. Back then, a rav, he was a king. He wouldn't pay taxes. Everywhere he used to walk was he had a lot of kavod. So he took off his gilima, the golden jomeh, and he put it on top of Rabbi Yossi. He says, I'm making you a rabbi. No test. Nothing. Straight. And that was the real smicha, by the way. He puts his hands on him, takes two other rabbis. Rav. That was enough. The embarrassment now. Now I'm a rabbi. What are people going to say? Look at me. It was enough for him to be choser b'tshuva.
Right. Wow.
Too bad for us, maybe.
What's the price went up?
The price went up. That's it. You made him a Rav. Back then, that was smicha. The rabbi come to you, Rav. He's the Rav. Now what happens? Rabbi Yosef becomes a big Tana. Big. Rabbi Yosef ben Rabbi Elazar. Now he passes away. They want to bury him inside the same crypt, inside the cave, with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his grandfather, and Rabbi Elazar's father. They come to bury him. A huge snake comes out of the cave. What you got? They said, they knew it was divine providence. They said to the snake, move. Let the grandson come inside, to the father, to the grandfather. A bat kol came from Shamayim. They said, he can't come in over there. VIP. He is. Not because he didn't learn enough Torah. Not because he's not a big tzaddik. He's a tzaddik, and they were tzaddikim. But what's the difference between them? They suffered for 13 years in a cave, and he didn't suffer with them. It's not even because of Averot. It's not because of mitzvot. The fact that they learned Torah through pain and suffering made them on a level that not even a Baal Tshuva like their grandson could go in with them. So when you in your life you're suffering, use those moments to learn the Torah. Use those moments to break the chametz. If you're going to do that, you're going to be in the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Elazar. If you think I'm going to go through my whole life and never suffer and everything's supposed to be good, life is dandy, first of all, like I told you guys on Shabbat, the Gemara says, Hizaru mibnei aniyim. Watch out for the kids who come from poor families. Ki mehem tetzeh Torah. From them Torah will come out. But if you ever look at rich kids, show me one Talmid Chacham that comes out of there. Why? You have to break the chametz before you get to the matzah. You got to break the chametz before you get to the matzah. So therefore, Rabotai, we see over here a very crucial point inside the Torah. It's important to suffer a bit. We're not saying to go like the Goyim right now, take a belt and like the monks, start lashing themselves, roll around and... I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying when it comes to you, and it will, remember be'ahava. It's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why we say in Ahavat Olam, Zakeinu, Hashem should be mizakeh otas le'ahava ve'le'yir'ah. And then we say again, le'yir'ah ve'le'ahava. Why? If you don't have ahava, you don't have yir'ah. But guess what? If you don't have yir'ah, you don't have ahava either. You can't have one without the other. They both come together, Rabotai. Saying that, Rabotai, now we're going inside Elchot Pesach. What does this have to do with Pesach? Rabotai, Pesach is not a regular holiday. In Pesach, you can return back to when you were just a thought inside the machshava of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yisrael ala b'machshava tchila. You know, when before Hashem created this world, who he thought about first? You. You were in Hashem's kiviyachol, his mind, before he created the world. There's a machloket in Kabbalah. What came first, the Torah or the neshamot of the Jewish people? There's a machloket again in Kabbalah. And there is a source that says the Jews' neshamot actually came before the Torah. There is a source like that. So therefore, Rabbatai, when you look at yourself, you have to say, Rabbatai, we are something special. We're something special. But it all depends how we perceive ourselves and each other. Am Yisrael kolam ketoshim, kolam tehorim, kolam yodim in the Torah. But you have to understand, if you're going to think all your life, how am I going to fill my belly, my ishkam? Let's take Pesach, for example. In the story, in the halachot of Pesach. You know, unfortunately, most Jews, they don't fulfill the mitzvah of afikoman. They don't fulfill the mitzvah of afikoman. We have 10 steps on Passover. Kadesh, Urchas, Karpas, Yachas, Magid, Rochza, Motzi, Matzah, Maror, Korach, Shulchan, Arech, Tzafon. What's Tzafon? The afikoman. By the way, Jewish trivia. What does afikoman mean? That's Tzafon. Tzafon means to hide. What does afikoman mean? To find. Try again. Nobody knows what afikoman means?
It's
The man in red.
It's a korban.
Afikoman is Greek. It means afikuman, bring the sweet stuff.
It's not
Usually at the end of your, it's the real Greek. Usually at the end of your Su'udah, what do you bring out to eat? The sweets. But in Pesach, do you bring out sweet? What's the last thing you have to eat? The matzah. That's what afikoman means. It's coming to remind you the halakha. You're not allowed to eat anything after the matzah. That's the halakha. And that's why the chacham, the four sons, what does the chacham ask? What is this word? And what do you answer him? You don't eat anything after the matzah, the afikoman. But we don't know that you have to eat the afikoman ala sova. What's ala sova? With appetite. No, the opposite. You have to be empty. What do we do? Shulchan orech, tarang orech shulchan. Everything's stick it in. Everything. Then you get to the afikoman, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah. You have to eat it ala saba. That means you have to eat it with appetite. You're hungry. You have to eat it you have to eat it, feel good. And the machmirim, by the way, the machmirim eat 2 kazayits.
So I guess no dinner for us that night.
Imagine you finish the afikoman, you finish the shulchan orech. I was once in a house as a kid. We were invited for Shabbat. One of a family for Pesach. We were sitting on the table. Religious Jews. Hat, shlepa, barada. They finish the shulchan orech. They eat afikoman. Suddenly one clown over there gets up. Bring the watermelon. Bring the, bring the slatki snow. Bring. We look at them like, are you guys joking? You can't eat everything after the afikoman. What happens if you do eat by mistake?
You have to read.
You have to eat afikoman again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you have to eat afikoman again. And let's say you forgot and you're already benched. What do? You have to wash your hands and eat the afikoman. Do you understand what I'm saying, Rabotai? Judaism. So you might say, Daniel, we're going to the Sudat Pesach. We're here to enjoy. It's nothing about enjoyment. It happens to be we enjoy on the way. But this has nothing to do with having pleasure. The pleasure in this is to fulfill God's commandment. That's the pleasure. That's the only pleasure you're supposed to have. That's why when you want to love Hashem, think about Him. Think about Him. Rabbi Rashab says, you want to love God, the only way to love Hashem is to think about Him. Constantly think. And when is the best time to do that, by the way? To think about Him? Hitbodedut?
No, it's the opposite. Not.
You know why you're saying it's the opposite? Because that's when the Yetzer Hara is playing with you the most. Because he doesn't want you to think about him then. How come the best time to think about him is when you're praying? Because when you're davening, you're speaking to him. It's not like you're speaking to him and that's it. You're just speaking. You're actually speaking to him. If you had eyes to see and ears to hear, you will see that Hashem is standing in front of you, and I'll prove it to you. Are you allowed to cross a person who's davening?
No.
Welcome. What's the big deal? The Zohar says very bad things about people who do that. Whoever is davening Shmoneh Yisrael, let's say I'm davening Shmoneh Yisrael, and I get up and I cross in front of you.
So what does the Zohar say about that?
Oh, the Zohar says it's like you don't have a God. It's like Chas v'Shalom, you don't believe in Hashem. Why? Also, by the way, it's not only for that, it's also for Kaddish. And I see this happening to many of you. They say Kaddish, and somebody... That's why if you guys pay attention, when they do the Kohanim blessings over here, lately I'm very machmir. I'm very careful right after they finish the Kohanim. I tell them, guys, move. He's davening Shmoneh Yisrael right now. You're not allowed to stand in front of the Chazan. He's supposed to have a direct... That's why tzaddikim, when they daven, they always try to take a place in the shul right next to the wall. Right next to the wall. Like it says in the Pasuk, Vayasef Hiskiyahu et panav el akir. He put his face directly to the wall. There should be nothing chotzetz. Nothing that separates, but there's no mechitza. Anything, there should be straight connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, when a person davens, you have to be very careful not to pass. So what does that mean? That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really there. And if you pass in front of a person who is davening, the Zohar says, it's Chas Shalom, it's as if En lo eloka. The Zohar is so machmir that he says you can't even pass behind him. The Zohar is machmir, but the halakha, it's only you can't pass in front of him. You
But if
understand?
you have some barrier, it's not a problem. Is it? Let's say I have a
Like
chair.
this table considered barrier?
This is not a barrier.
Really?
It's not a wall. You can still see it.
It's like
The halacha is, Gabriel, when you finish the Shemona Esrei, you have to stand in your place.
Yeah,
You gotta stand in your place. When the Chazan repeats the Shemona Esrei, when he gets to Nagdisha, you go 3 steps back with him. Now it's so chumrah that time of the tefillah. The other is, you can't take a sefer and start learning. There is a, so you say, how come you do it? So there is a kula to open the book and just read. Why they give you this kula these days? Because our minds are so full in mush.
Garbage.
If we leave it open for 1 second, what comes inside? We don't want all the things to float up. We don't want it. So we could learn the Torah, but you can't speak. Why? Did you know when you're davening with a tzibur, you're still you're still inside the Hechal HaMelech. You're still talking to Hashem until who?
Yeah.
Until the Chazan finishes the second repetition. That's why he's called the Chazan. What's a Chazan? From the word Chozeh. What's a Chozeh? A seer. What did Shmuel call himself when Shaul finds him? He says, Ani haro'eh. I'm the seer. A Navi is called a Chazan. He's called a Chozeh. He's called a seer. He's a Chazan. Therefore, a Chazan, people used to kill themselves over it back in the day. You know that? There used to be fights inside the shul. Who's going to be the Chazan? By Ashkenazim, they still have it. By Sfaradim, it's all over here. Yalla, ta'aleh. By Assyrians, it's still like that. It'd be a Chazan, or if a guy has a Arvit, a Minchat Adav, and he has a Chriv, if you're going to take his tefillah, alach alecha. You understand? So therefore, you have to, the Chazan is a very high, how do I know it's a high level Chazan? The Kohen cannot start blessing until the Chazan tells him, Yivarechecha. Hashem, V'yishmerecha, V'yishmer. So the Chazan is a very high level. He's on a very high level. Therefore, when a person davens, you should know, when you're davening with the tzibur, you have to wait. We're still davening until the Chazan finishes. And therefore, that's why the only halacha you have inside the Shulchan Aruch where you're allowed to embarrass somebody is only when you're in the middle of the repetition and somebody talks. Go'arimbo, says the Shulchan Aruch. You're allowed to embarrass the person. Stop speaking inside the Beit HaKnesset. You're allowed to embarrass him. Now, obviously, I'm not over here telling you to embarrass people. Before you embarrass somebody, remember to think about, are you yourself clean from this avera? If you yourself are not clean from this avera, kshot atzmecha, first of all, adorn yourself, then start adorning people. It's a very important thing in Torah. Before you start giving people tochecha, first give yourself tochecha. Kshot atzmecha kodem. Okay? So therefore, let's go back to the afikoman. So by the afikoman, Abraham, Daniel, by the afikoman, you have to eat it ala saba. You have to eat it with abba. Therefore, by Shulchan Aruch, you have to keep it easy. Why? You right away, first of all, you're not allowed to eat matzah on the 14th of Nisan. Yes? Especially this year. You can't eat matzah. So when Pesach comes in, you have to eat matzah with te'avon, with appetite. You understand? Right away, you barely eat. This year, it's not going to be like that because you're going to have 3 sudas of Shabbat. You eat a lot. Motzi matzah. By the way, motzi matzah, very important halakha. I just want to remind you guys, you're not allowed to eat it with anything. When you do hamotzi lechem min haaretz al achilat matzah, you cannot take the matzah and start eating it with dips.
You just eat it, right?
You just have to eat the matzah. I think about a little salt and pepper, if you know some salt and pepper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, something like that. But you can put a little salt. But you can't bring the avocado dip. Bring the hummus, the kitniot. Bring the matbuka. Bring the thing, matzah. You want to eat it with ta'avon. You can't do that. You have to eat it, the taste. If you eat it with the dips, what do you have to do?
Read it.
Everything all over again.
Without the whole Seder again?
Motzi matzah, I'm talking about. Motzi matzah is the first step. If you didn't eat the motzi matzah correctly, you have to re-eat the motzi matzah. You understand? Therefore, you have to be 2 eyes open in the halachot. For example, Rav Ovadia Yosef, in his time, there is a chumrah like this to eat the whole kazait in 1 shot. So what do Ashkenazim used to do? They used to make them into pieces, stuff it all in their mouth, chew it, everything in their mouth, the whole kazait, and swallow. You have to eat the whole kazait as one. As one. There is a posek like that. So therefore, what happened? Rav Ovadia Yosef, when he saw this, he wrote a whole tshuva in his time. The first book Rav Ovadia Yosef came out with, the first book was Hilchot HaPesach. This book, Chazon Ovadia, Hilchot HaPesach, this was the first book he came out with. How old was he? I think he was 32. No, he was 32, 33. This was his first publication, his real publication. He had a book before that. But this was his first halachic book as a Rav Rashi, as somebody respectable. You understand? This was that year when he came out with this book, Rav Ovadia Yosef. They made him, in his words, living hell on earth. Because he has a lot of kulot in here, a lot of leniencies. Especially, he wrote over here, you don't have to eat the whole kazayit in one shot. You could chew it nicely, kederech achila, like a chilavik. What happened? He said, they made my life so miserable. That year, he was sick the whole Pesach. On his bed, he couldn't eat. They had to feed him they broke him. The kanaim, you know what the kanaim are? I say kanaim. There are zealous Jews out there that they think it's okay to embarrass people when people don't go their way. These kind of zealous people that for them it's important ben adam lemakom, but not ben adam lechavero. No, then you're being the same. You're being the same as them. They also think it's Lashem Shamayim, by the way. You have to teach them. Avraham. The Torah, darchei noam. It's a way of pleasantness. V'kol netivotea shalom. All the Torah's pathways is peace. We're not coming with bats, with guns, do whatever we want. If we wanted that, we would have been Jew. By the way, if the Jews would do outreach, missionizing the way the Kritmachs are, trust me, there would be 1 billion people out there Jews. If we would do what the Goyim do to try to convert, there would be 1 billion Jews out there in the world today. That's not our point. Understand? It's not our point. Coming out there there was a Jew like that, by the way. His name was Yonatan Chashmonai. Yonatan Chashmonai. He converted by force nations. From that nation came out Herod, who killed all the Chashmonaim. So be careful what you wish for. We don't go out with bats.
I think I'll take a man out to teach a lesson.
Don't worry about the lesson. Anyway, so back to the halacha. So Rav Ovadia Yosef was very sick. They had to feed him the matzah in his mouth. His wife had to take the matzah, dip it in the hot water. He couldn't swallow. He was so depressed he couldn't swallow the matzah. Therefore, a person has to take these halachot and open it. I know we talked a lot about a lot of other things today, but it's Torah. That's the way the Torah is. You open, we talk about the tzaddikim, the chachamim, some halachot. So, Rabotai, this coming Shabbat, I won't be over here inside the Bet HaKnesset, unfortunately. Unfortunately, at the same time, I'm going to be Be'ir HaKodesh, New Jersey. One of the first northern states to legalize, I don't want to say, hopefully it's not going to be, it's going to go down the drain, this very bad thing. And New York is unfortunately next on the line, so we have to daven very quickly and very passionately that this garbage stays out of our homes, away from our kids, away. We don't need it. Everything to the zivit. Like Rav Moshe Feinstein says, there's nothing worse in life than Bitul Torah. And this, Rav Moshe Feinstein writes about it. This was 30, 40 years ago he writes about it. He says, this thing is the number one Bitul Torah. Number one Bitul Torah. So he said, Daven Takadosh Baruch Hu, this Pesach, that this, just as Como is going La Azazel, so to all of his things is going to go with him La Azazel. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless all of you with a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. Oh, brachot, hatzlachot, zivugim agunim to all singles of Hashem Yitbarach. Hashem bless you with hatzlacha b'chinuch yiladim. Bracha v'hatzlacha, yishuot gedol, Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hanan ben Akashia omer, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu letzakot,